We can go now.
It's 7:01 PM on August 6th, 2025. We will officially call the planning commission meeting for the month of August into session. We will begin with roll call. Drew Falk,
Elizabeth Saul.
Allison Miller.
Colin
James
Forsyth.
Whitesides.
Simon Fairweather.
You got it there.
excellent. Okay. First issue is to approve previous month's minutes.
We do have one change,
One
because
change.
James was online. And he's listed here as absent. So can you just, for the record,
Yes.
make that change? James, anything else that you saw?
Nope, just that. Thank you.
That was our joint meeting and, I thought that Andrea did a great job summarizing everything there.
James, if I may, after the meeting's over, I have a question to ask about your attendance for last month. So let me write a note. So just hang out a little bit after the meeting's over, please.
With the one noted change, we have a motion to approve said minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Approved as amended.
Approved as amended.
And
All right. Did anyone need a copy, or did you guys all bring your electronic versions?
Electronic version.
Well, in case we have people that showed up, I made some copies. I just kind of wanted to recap with you before we dive into our parking and all this other fun stuff. How do you feel about the last meeting? Did you feel like it was productive? From the minutes, this is kind of the recap, is we are still working on our comp plan update. I have an update on the Nexus study. They want us to still look at parking. I have the ADU regulations on track for hearing next week with the council, which is really cool. So nice work, guys. The CUP criteria kind of rose above some other things. We still have R3 on the docket, but it's lower priority. Triplex regulations, which we're going to talk about tonight, and then whatever docket items are remaining. That's kind of the summary of what I got. As far as the Nexus study, I reached out to MRSC. I sent you guys an email. Basically, it was like, that's not gonna work.
so
There's no,
I have
yeah,
question.
yes.
Yeah.
About, can we get around this?
I've reached out to our legal too.
So you can have payment in lieu.
Mhm.
Can we just be like, yes, there is payment in lieu. The minimum development size is 1 unit.
Exactly.
We could require every unit to have an affordable housing
Yeah.
component, and if they don't.
Like a single family residence,
Yeah, I don't know if we
Or-
wanna go that strict.
anything
But maybe
greater
like
than that.
anything over 3, because you allow a house and 2 ADUs.
The other thing, this would not be able to, we would then not be able to collect fees from any commercial development,
Right?
but.
Unless
I
maybe
think
there
they
was-
they were doing
apply
that in
to-
Hood River anyway.
Unless there's a way to require them to include some kind of affordable housing component, and if they don't, we could dig into that more.
Yeah.
But we have to go back to that kind of inclusionary zoning where.
I think that you could require that for anywhere where housing is a permitted use, right?
Which is
Oh.
everywhere.
Exactly.
Oh, so it wouldn't be use-based.
Except
it would
for
be-
industrial,
Single family isn't-
right?
Single family isn't in commercial, but multifamily is,
Yeah.
and so is like condos or work.
Yeah,
I'd like to see more of the work, live work units would be cool. So there's options. So I guess that's what I wanted to kind of bring up is like, yes, I got kind of knocked down by that, but how could we more fit into something that could work?
yeah.
That I could bring to the council and go, hey, how about this? And do you think that would stifle development? Do you think it would,
I think it depends what the fee is, and that's what
Exactly.
comes back to the Nexus study, is like. What is appropriate to charge so that people are not like. I can no longer afford to build a house.
I
Right.
say that.
Like, we don't
Well,
want
they
to,
said that about the new energy codes, and
That's
then
what-
everybody just sucked it up and they're
Yeah,
building
that's fine.
to
But
the
if
new
we made
standards
it-
and it's fine, and they were like, this is gonna add like 20% to the cost. And it's.
Yeah. the same with Louis code,
Yeah.
you can still build.
But I do think, you know, a Nexus study would be like, what is the appropriate?
Well, the Nexus
Um,
study can say what is the maximum envelope, and then it's up to the council to determine what within that
Yeah.
envelope.
But
is
also-
politically feasible.
So we
The
would, want-
Nexus study would look at, like, if this is the fee, then this is how much money it will produce. Like, this is how much money will be going into the affordable housing.
Yeah.
You know, because it's also like, well, how little can we charge people that are just building a single family home, but still be putting money into a worthwhile affordable housing fund that is going to be enough funds for like real projects. So that's like the balance, right?
so is your recommendation that we say every project has to include an affordable housing component? Like, or do we say after a certain number, you have to?
I think that it's totally doable to say every project, and then that way the maximum fee that can be charged is less, right? Because it applies everywhere as opposed to. Because I understand their response about how you can't pick and choose what project it applies to. If you're developing something where there could be housing, technically there's a opportunity cost there if it doesn't include affordable housing.
Yeah, so any development that is in a zone that allows housing,
New development.
yeah. Then if they don't include affordable housing, they pay a fee in lieu.
Yes, just sorry, what fees are you talking about? The SEC?
We're talking about inclusionary zoning.
Okay.
And that what we were hoping to do, like the Hood River model of having just like an impact fee, like development fee is not allowed in the state of Washington. So we are looking at other strategies.
Thanks.
Should it be all developments located in a zone that allows residential development, or is it multifamily development, just like all zones?
Anywhere that you hypothetically could have housing, right?
Anywhere that you build a house.
Yeah,
I mean, I think that's the way you have to be, because I think you can't
Yeah.
discern. I don't think you would be allowed to discern otherwise, because there wouldn't be a.
Because we do want affordable housing to be developed in the single family residential zone. That's why we're allowing second ADUs and triplexes.
We don't want
So-
to make it cost prohibitive to build these ADUs either, right?
But I mean, if the fee
Well,
in lieu
but if-
is close to that like 1% number we were talking about,
1% of
project costs.
the project fee or the
I think that's what Hood River did, right?
one
It's like
percent of like the,
Of like,
One question I have is what if your project is building an ADU on your lot where you already have a house, so you're creating the affordable housing that we want? Are we still gonna charge these people? Because it feels like if the idea is to create more,
Mhm.
and we're not talking about a vacant lot, we're talking about a lot that's already in existence with a home on it. If you're building an ADU or maybe two ADUs, are we gonna charge these people this extra money? I feel, it feels like if the idea is for more, it has to be for like vacant lot new projects or tear down new projects, not in addition to, because that's what we want. Is
I
that
think-
fair?
I think we had talked about ADUs being exempt. like when we
Or
talked
any
about-
secondary unit on a
So-
property already in
Any unit
existence?
that could be affordable housing, really, right? If you're building something.
What we want is just more. So if somebody's gonna create more, I hate to charge the people who are trying to do what we're doing, as opposed to, I don't necessarily have the problem with charging the brand new user who buys a lot from, hypothetically, Jordan McDevitt and builds a new house inside the city limits. Okay, that makes sense to me, some sort of a fee. But if you're already adding something else, the exemption for an ADU, that seems like for sure.
But there's no, the thing
You can't.
I agree with that, but we also don't know what they're gonna rent it for. It might not be affordable workforce. It could be,
It could be
I
That's
heard-
super fair. That's,
I heard
but
that somebody that just built a house with an attached ADU was going to rent the house for over like 3,500 and the ADU for 20, with more than what
how
I,
many bedrooms? Do you know what the bedroom count for these?
well, the ADU's under 900 square feet.
So it's a one bed, well, Matt Melton's doing these
It could
2 bedrooms,
be a
little 900 square feet
two-bedroom,
units are
A
thinking about it. So,
2-bedroom for like 2,700 a month attached.
well, okay. Brand
But
new,
high end, it's brand new.
okay.
Oh, yeah, I've been having to rent for the past
Yeah,
many months, and yeah,
it's crazy.
it's a lot.
But we can't put
Two
rent control, we can't put rent control in, right?
James has a
I mean,
question too.
Yeah.
realistically,
Good.
Am I allowed to ask?
boy, oh boy.
You could do it.
There's.
But generally speaking, rent control doesn't count when you first.
Yeah, it's rent control only
Okay.
controls the increment.
Yeah.
Not the first, which is
Understood.
why,
Yeah,
Okay.
James.
I apologize, I sidetracked there. I just feel like if what we want is more and what we need is more, I hate to charge the people this extra. So I love the ADU exemption. I'm fully on that and I will digress. and
Across the
stop.
board, like
Yep.
regardless, because we can't, that puts a lot on the city to have to like,
Pick and
control
choose
that.
and double check, yeah.
and put deed restrictions on everything. It's,
That was my next question and my. Yeah, that was my
Continue.
statement. Like, how would you handle this, Maggie? That sounds like a lot of extra management.
Like in general or with the ADUs? Oh, lost him.
well, so
Anytime
we
we
have,
split a fee structure up, it just becomes more complicated to manage too.
so in the code right now, we have the affordable housing, like, we have an affordable housing, code to kind of promote it and give people, let me try to find it. I'm gonna stop share real quick. It's like the incentive program, but if we made that incentive program more of a requirement. And then if they don't use the incentive, like, they don't do any of those things, then they
Yeah,
can pay a fee in lieu of. We kind of already have that all built.
yeah,
And the single fee in lieu of makes it easy because it's just a broad brush bang. Every new project in a residential area, no problem.
Okay, so. Sorry, guys. I don't want to derail like everything on this, but I wanted to get a direction on how you'd like me to move forward because I want to move something forward. So this is our. Let me see it. Our affordable housing. Okay. Our incentive program. So right now it's for low income renters and then low income owner occupied. So we could, if we want more workforce housing too, maybe we could include that here too to incentivize.
yeah, we could up
workforce
those,
to the 120 AMI or
like
100.
renters could go up to 80 and owner occupied could be like 100.
100.
What are those palpable numbers so that we can, what is 50%
I think
and 80%
currently
right now? What are the-
County AMI is like 70,000. 65.
It's like around 75, I think, or 78.
75? Okay, yeah, it's gone up a little.
100% of 74 right now today?
right, that's
Okay.
AMI, yeah.
For one person.
For one person?
Single, how about single house?
Okay.
And then, so then you're looking at renters.
38,000.
But we also have grant loan programs for those too.
I think the renters should.
Right, here are the incentives we have built in based on lot sizes and I mean, it's very complicated. I think we could simplify it, but we have some tools built in, and if we amended this and then made it a requirement, then we could add that fee in lieu of. I haven't done a deep dive because I wanted to talk to you guys about this. That's why there's not a lot on the agenda about this, but I can move something like that forward for I don't know, give me direction.
I'm reading this, in the. Why is this doing this? Sorry. Trying to make sure I'm looking at the right section of the very long email they sent.
I know, but there are a lot of components to it, and
So basically, it's, we're looking at a mandatory program. And then. We have the incentives, we can adjust that. They may allow payment of money or property in lieu of low-income housing units if the jurisdiction determines that the payment achieves a result equal to or better than providing the affordable housing on site. So I think my only concern about the fee in lieu is that the Nexus study is gonna be like, for it to follow the law, those fees are gonna be really high. And it's not gonna be like the 1% that we were talking about.
Can you
and
restate that again? Where are you?
This is
I'm trying to
from
figure
the-
out which part of
It is from, okay,
there
where
are
am
two
I?
basic types. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, so inclusionary zoning. And then it's go after the below are some cities in Washington that have
Yep.
them, and then Growth Management Act. And then the sections she pulled from the GMA, there's 2, 3, and then 8. It's like section 8 under GMA.
Okay.
That's the last part. But
Yeah, I see what you mean.
But I mean, is there any other route to doing this? This is,
the fee in lieu of, it's really stuck to this inclusionary zone.
Yeah.
That's when it's been hard, it's a hard thing to
Yeah.
make work. A lot of cities, bigger cities have worked.
right. This is a wacky idea that probably legal doesn't like very much, but, I was chatting with my husband about this email over dinner just now. And I said something about like waiving that, like, oh, the only, like, we were talking about like incentives, and I was like, you can waive some of the permit fees. And he was like, what if you just make the permit fees
Been balanced.
really, really high? And like, he's like, can you
Yep.
just like make the permit fees higher and then waive it if they do affordable housing? I was like, I
It's hard,
feel like that would
though,
be hard to get away with.
yeah, I mean, so like our fees, we have to be able to show that we're not making a profit.
Yeah, it's a fee, not a tax, so you can't, you
So,
have to
like-
use it for the
So, like-
purpose.
Permit fees are, yeah, that was kind of what I figured, they're,
They're tied to like the cost
Tied,
of
yeah.
what it takes to review the permit.
Yeah.
So
and
we
there's
have-
not. Because it's like, oh, like, we can't do an impact development fee, like water and sewer connections, and that's when he was like, well, what about?
Yeah.
But there's, yeah,
It's weird that I mean, I guess, is this code meant to make sure that people don't just use the fees, provide some nominal fee, and then nobody ever gets affordable housing? But most fees, you never charge the full amount of the nexus for political reasons. But is there a way that we could charge the full amount, but provide them a discount on something else? Is there any other
Like for affordable,
like if we were to follow this law,
payment in lieu.
the payment of lieu fee, where it actually achieves a result equal to or better than providing the affordable housing on site. Which means that the fee would have to be really high, probably,
Be like,
but
what a
maybe
unit
we
is.
could give a discount somewhere in some other costs that. I don't know what other costs there are other than permits that we have control over.
and it's like, the other like development impact fees are all going into their specific,
Yep, absolutely.
you know,
There's already
yeah,
use
we
for
can't
that.
like, we
Totally.
would just be taking money out of like some other.
So I know in California, you can do that and it's called they call it a fee bait and then everything. Like, would you like a fee bait?
Right, we have spent 20 minutes on this subject and
I'm just,
not sure that we've made any progress.
I'm getting direction that I should take a little bit of a dive into the inclusionary zoning again and see how it could work.
Yes, I think that's the direction.
Using it and exempting ADUs and using it in zones that allow for residential development.
Yeah.
Okay,
Let's try this approach again and see what.
thank you for
feedback-
redirecting.
Oh, good.
And I don't think we'll have to spend much time on the off-street parking and loading. If you are in favor of that one change, it's really gonna be up to I know the council during the last meeting, they kind of gave us direction to look at the fee in lieu of fee. But I think they have some of that documentation just from the parking studies they've done, and just recently, we're working on the parking garage and what it's going to cost. I think we can get that cost estimate for what a stall would be and use that as a starting point for what that fee in lieu of could be. So I don't know that we want to take too much of a dive into that, because I think fees are really their job. And you guys are gonna be helping with the code writing of how you want that to read. And I guess my question would be, do you want it to be for all new construction in the central commercial, or does it include redevelopment? Does it include change of occupancy? Because occupancy changes can change the need for parking.
In other zones is any development that changes the parking. Like if you do an occupancy change in a different zone where parking is required,
Just keep it the same across the board.
I would think so. Especially if we're trying to simplify by like just using one chart
Yeah,
of like, no matter what, like this is the table of how many spaces you need.
yeah.
So if in any other zone, you would have to go back to that chart and be like, oh, you went from needing 6 spaces to 8 spaces, like it would be the
The
same.
way it reads now in all districts, so then we just take out except the central commercial district. For each new structure or change of use, which increases the structure or use in area 50% or more. I don't know how you change the use 50% or more, that doesn't make sense.
We say the parking need.
Yeah, number of stalls, number.
Yeah. So it's the area if you're gonna add on to a structure and increase the square footage by 50% or more, or change the use and increase the demand for parking by 50% or more. There shall be provided and maintained off-street parking facilities in conformance with provisions of this chapter. And then instead of the caveat for central commercial district, we could have the fee in lieu of language there. And still always require it for hotel, motel, overnight lodging, because they need parking. So I think it's really just cleaning up that one section. I would really like to go through this part here, all the different types, like residential, hotel, motel, institutional, and actually have these match uses in our district use chart. So it more clearly helps us say like, that's where we got into a lot of interpretations. Like I got the Boulder and gym and I'm like, I don't know where it fits here. How do I determine how many stalls they need? Or it's easy when you look at like schools, library, church, but like how often are we getting those? It's more of these commercial uses, which I have this to work off. I have retail store, office, medical, dental office, a mortuary is specific in here. But I just think if this matched more of our district use chart, it would be a lot more easy for me to use. And really look at the square footages and then how it's used, and does that make sense with the space? And have some exemptions in here too for areas that are used for storage or areas that are just we ran into that with the bouldering gym, where there's areas that aren't really used for public space because it's part of just the walls. And so we had to exempt some areas and do an
Well, this-
interpretation. Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
In the IRC or IBC, there's like net versus gross. And I feel like that would potentially be logical for
To
some
use
of
here.
this. Like, so I was trying to like do a little space needs assessment to basically prove that we could put a pool and library and community center on the Osborne site. And I was like, how much parking would we need? And I'm like, swimming club, 300 square feet of ground area or 100 square feet of floor area. I mean, that's like, for the pool, for that size of pool, that's like 150 spaces,
Which makes
which
no
is,
sense.
we have like 40. You know, I'm like,
There's a
that,
parking
this
problem,
is
but we
very
also have a
weird.
walkable
There's
community.
like 40 in the
Yeah.
lot, and for the ones that are parkable by the pool, it's only like 15 or 20.
Oh, I thought it was both sides on the
Oh, is
outside,
it-
right?
No, I thought it was just
It's the one side.
Yeah, the one
Oh,
side.
yeah, so it's like 20.
Yeah, exactly. It's like there's just not a lot there.
Yeah, so, yeah, and I mean, the library, I was like, yeah, technically, we would need like 15 spaces for the library, we have 5, you know, 4. So, so I think a lot of these are kind of off, but there's also a lot of things that just aren't getting used. So I feel like if we go through like the district use chart and be like, oh, we've already cleaned this up and it's nice and it has all the uses that we need and everything's gonna get categorized there. And then just translate it to this.
Right.
And then if you pick the closest thing from our current parking matrix,
Yeah,
then we can go through and be like, which of these are right and which are need some
but I
adjustments.
do think some of them need work too, like,
Yeah.
it's not as much as like matching it to the closest use, because that's what we have to do now, right?
Mhm.
It's like, okay, this most closely aligns with this use in the park.
Right.
And it might not be accurate, like if you, and I agree, like looking at building code and occupancy, right? And then looking at how many people might drive to get, like, they're.
Yeah. Because this, like what we have now in the parking code is very different than like an IRC occupancy table. And it would make more sense if it was like we take our district use chart and then we kind of match that up with like occupancy, you know,
Yeah,
occupancy, not just purely area. I don't know.
yeah.
Yeah, maybe there's a way.
Sometimes it's hard with area, I agree.
Well, I mean, parking generation from the engineer's perspective is determined by the ITE parking generation manual, use code. And so not.
Is that
the-
based entirely on area?
Some and some, or it can be
Or
based on
occupancy.
several different things. So it could be based on like number of employees, number of square footage, blah, blah, blah. But there's guidelines in how those square footages are calculated, which
Sure.
I haven't done that for a few decades, but there is a guideline on that. And so like, I think that
Yeah.
there's,
look at
whether or not they use that in it's proprietary, so I have to get my friend to tell me who has a copy of it. But I mean, I would presume that we would want to be consistent with how they're doing it because. So,
Great.
We have allowed people to submit parking studies when like this doesn't make sense. Like
Yeah.
it says they need X number of parking spaces and it's like 100 for
Yeah.
something. So we have allowed them to get a traffic engineer to do a study. So maybe it's something where we have our traffic engineer give us some new data.
well, it's,
'Cause
I mean,
think this is old.
they also, I mean,
Yeah,
they've
I agree.
evolved the parking generation manual and the trip generation manual a ton based on more
Correct.
data from more walkable and tightly integrated use communities. The original data was all from like building a new shopping center in Florida. They did a lot, Florida DOT did a lot of traffic counts outside their shopping centers. And so most of the data from the earlier versions were all based on that. So
But that would be, I don't know, might be worthwhile. I know it makes things take longer, but if we want to do this and want to do it right, it makes sense to look at all of that. Not just simply change one thing, but really look at what's working and what's not working.
Yeah, and I think, ITE provides a data point, but I think that people in this room and people here know the community the best, and it's, a data point on which to base your interpretation on what it should be as
And
opposed
maybe
to,
looking at that plus our building code occupancy and
Yeah.
like saying what, then we're taking data. And I think it's worth a little. Yeah, all I'm saying is it's worth maybe a deeper dive into. this
maybe the
code.
library has access to that.
How big will that be to go ask?
Well, I would want to talk to our city engineer and see, and maybe get a
I could
Uh,
do
a
the analysis.
bid for what, or, for what that might cost.
Okay.
To have that kind of work done. If it's minimal and it's something, I think it's worthwhile. Especially if we're gonna go the route of the fee in lieu of, we wanna make sure that we have the right counts and that we're not like, oh yeah, you need 100 parking spaces, you're gonna pay this. I think we want it to be really fair and equitable.
I think it's worth asking the question and.
Yeah. That's a good starting point.
It cost us a month of time, but I think it's worth it.
And I could very well go through our district use chart and see what we have in here and where things align and where we're missing. I don't think we need to spell out mortuary here, like a specific use. I think we could be a little more vague or broad, not vague, broad in some of these
Yeah.
and lumping them together, so. Dance hall
this is-
skating rink.
Cracking me up that like. Yeah, a tennis club. 1 stall per 100 square feet of floor area, and then it's like. Furniture store. 1 stall per 3,000 square feet of floor area. Like, this is weird.
And when you dig into it, it is very weird.
Yeah,
You just.
It
like,
seems-
a Dart.
it seems really arbitrary.
Board. It's like, what are we doing? We're
Do you
throwing.
even have a drive-in
Open
theater?
air market and used car sales lot.
Let's go. You know, they're like just.
So that's kind of, again, I'm sorry that tonight is not, like, it's really getting more direction, so we can dig into this a little more.
So
That's good.
going out and asking the question to get a little bit better metrics, from the
Yeah.
engineer, how difficult would be to get kind of a ballpark on what a construction stall per stall cost would be?
I think I can get that from Selby, because he mentioned that with the studies they're doing now, he kind of has like a fee from what it was a few years ago, what it would cost now, and we could come up with some kind of ballpark fee.
Yeah.
And it could be less than that, it could, but it gives us something with some, that's true data. It's not just a number we're coming up with.
Yep, okay.
So I could bring that, and an estimate for what it would cost to kind of update this. The trip generation or the parking requirements. I would like to make it align with our use chart. If you guys are okay with that, that would be pretty simple for me to put together.
I think so.
Yeah.
While you're working on that, before we move on from this subject, any discussion around change of ownership, change of occupancy, new build, renovation? What are some of the criteria we'd want to factor in for when this fee would be applicable?
I would think it'd be when there's any change in the parking requirement. So that would be a change of use or occupancy. Or new development. Or like redevelopment that increases the space sufficiently to change the parking requirement.
Do you like how it is with the 50% expansion, or do you want?
I feel like we could get rid of the 50% and just be like,
Cause if they're just
I don't know.
remodeling,
Yeah, if you buy and do a remodel and you don't change anything, I think that you,
Yeah, that is what it is.
yeah,
But if you're buying and changing the occupancy,
or changing the use or changing anything about the building that changes from the purchased use or the original, whatever, however we deem it, yes.
It's like
it'll
change
change the
of
threshold.
change
for-
of use or change of occupancy, be the two
Yeah.
triggers.
Yeah. I don't
Or
think
change in number of units,
I
what
don't
if you had
think
a?
It needs to be 50%. I
It-
think if you add the need for one more parking space, you gotta.
Yeah, like if you had a,
Because I mean, you could do a major addition, but depending on, if you went from like a mercantile use to an office use or something, you might not actually require any more parking despite adding like 600 square feet. Versus if you're like, oh, I'm changing this from like, restaurant to mercantile or something like that. Then you might be like, oh, now you need another parking spot.
And if it's zero lot line, they're like, oh, I don't have
So
to
it's
for
just-
that. We're like, okay, well, if you wanna do this, you're gonna pay the fee.
It's just like any development requiring a permit, you're like, oh, well, if it changes your parking requirement.
James says, should we also include a context around peak demand? His internet's not working very well.
do we have a chart that we could?
Yeah,
peak demand? I mean, like, yes, I don't disagree with that. It's a great idea, as long as there's some sort of a
quantify it.
quantifiable chart that we can get behind and say we agree with, yes.
The parking generation manual sort of takes that into account.
Oh, okay.
I think they take everything into consideration. and they come
engineers,
up with a
man.
number.
I think everything.
Magic
Well, you have to
number.
be careful, because they'll design you the peak
Yeah.
demands, that's where you get all the,
Sure.
the Black Friday parking lots at the
Yeah.
mall from, so you have to, you usually
Yeah.
wanna take it down from that.
Easter Sunday, yeah.
Yeah,
You don't want to look barren even when you're nice and busy.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
Peak demand
not
parking lot
designed
just
for more
makes sense.
parking lot, like more parking in our downtown. The goal is that these people are paying their proportionate share into parking that we
Right.
provide elsewhere to service the downtown.
Just out of curiosity, is there any way you could do, instead of a one-time fee, but do a recurring fee or an amortized fee?
I kind of like that because, I've kind of been mulling over the fact that, nobody's paid for parking yet.
Well, but then do you just like,
I think that makes
all
it
of a
hard to
sudden,
assess.
everybody downtown is paying this fee and they're like, whoa. Like, I've owned this building for 30 years, I can't.
Yeah. and the
Actually afford
community
to
has
pay a
provided
fee.
the parking for you. OS, actually.
But I think.
That's true. I think I brought that up at the last meeting. I remember the mayor just saying that like there was not a mechanism on which to collect fees on a regular basis.
This type
With
of
the
fee.
city, yeah. So it would be a lot of administrative lift.
I'm a huge fan of the one-time
How
fee
did they-
because as a developer, you can just look at it and understand
Yeah.
that like, hey, okay, if the parking fee is $72,000 per stall or whatever fee we pay, you just build it into your overall cost, and if the numbers work, you go, instead of like having to look into the future and see what that might be in a transfer of ownership and see what that might be as well.
Yeah.
I feel like that one-time cost makes more sense. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, I mean,
it is.
we don't know what that fee is gonna be yet.
Right.
And my fear is that it could be astronomical.
I think it's like in the range of 70.
It should be high.
Well, I think that, but that makes sense if you
That's
think
not-
about it.
That's how much it costs to make a parking spot. I mean.
Yeah.
And as a developer, if you're gonna build a building downtown and you need 2 or 3 parking stalls and that $210,000 fits into your $1.5 million, I feel like you just make it work, and
Yeah.
we need to have a fee that feels like a fee in this situation as well.
But you're talking only about new build, right? So I'm just talking, and what happens if you do change your operation or you do change your occupancy? I don't want a restaurant to go, I'm not gonna do the sidewalk anymore because I don't want to pay $70,000 for a parking fee. So I think we need to look at some of the
Sidewalk,
smaller
yeah.
established.
Yeah, I think that, that's a really good, that's a very good point, Drew. I don't disagree with you at all. And I think
Yeah.
what Colin said with the sidewalk count, that,
We don't do that right now. We
Okay.
don't. These are considered special use permits. They're renewed annually, so that we
So you
don't.
And they're revocable.
We don't,
so-
because then we get into the issue of like bathroom requirements. Because there's in the building code, it's based on square footage.
Yeah.
So if we.
Well,
Okay, that's
occupants-
fine.
Or the occupant load
Yeah.
determines how many restrooms you have to have, and that's based on some square footage, correct?
Yeah.
So if we were to include that outdoor area, it could trigger them to put in a bathroom, things like that,
Hmm.
and since that's not theirs and we can say, no, we're not gonna do this anymore, it's like a penalty.
Yeah.
When it's really city space that we're leasing and city has restrooms.
I mean, right now, the barriers to downtown development are fairly high. And people do it
And it's
anyway.
Financial,
Yeah, but well, because, I mean, the Bavarian theme, like, it is more expensive to do a Bavarian theme building than not. And like, you have to go through design review, you have to go through, like, there's a lot of hoops to jump through. It is not a cheap place to develop. It is complex. And I'm like, I don't feel like an extra parking fee is going to be like,
Detrimental to the development.
yeah, I don't think it's going to like change a lot of minds. Like the buildings that have not been well maintained or redeveloped. Like, there are plenty of other barriers that are stopping them from doing that, and I don't feel like parking is gonna be like a major additional factor. I mean, yes, it's an additional factor, but it's not gonna be like, oh, well, I was gonna do that, but now, it's like, there's
Yeah.
already a lot of expensive barriers to like downtown development.
Yeah.
People still do it, so.
Do we look at it? Like the multi-tiered then, so it's just a flat fee for new development, but then maybe there's a different approach for conversion or occupancy change. So I mean, I do want to, not that we need to be on specific businesses, but let's say Right House were to change hands. That's a business that didn't add parking or has not paid into parking, but generally
but none of the
should.
existing places have paid into
Yeah.
parking.
Yeah, but so if that were to convert to no ownership or potentially occupancy change or something, how can we, at that moment of change in ownership, obviously add the fee in without being a $70,000 fee on top of when you're changing a business is a lot different than $70,000 fee when you're building a new building.
Well, a change in ownership.
Shouldn't change, wouldn't cause a fee charge.
No, unless it's a use.
Change in
that would
occupancy
change
would.
The,
Yeah.
Use change, yeah.
the use
Yeah.
change of the over 50% difference, right? Is that what we talking about?
Or,
Well, I
well, a
think we
use
did
change
do
that
that.
increased the parking
Right,
requirement.
that's what I meant, yeah.
Yeah, which,
So if it went through from an occupancy to an A occupancy or
right. Or I mean, even like the office that I am now in downtown. That when the building was built, it was, that entire second floor of the building was M, and now we're B
okay.
in the back. So we reduced the parking requirement by like.
Yeah.
We did our little conference room and now it says like
people don't
reclassified
wanna
with a different
rebate.
occupancy and we reduced. Yeah, people might ask for money back if they did that.
Are we offering a rebate when we change the use to
So-
require less
Versus,
parking?
so then
Yeah,
if, we vacate our office and they're like, oh, we have a new occupant that wants to switch it back to M. They'd be like, oh, now you have to, if you want to switch it back to M from B,
We'd never go backwards.
then you need to.
Once you.
well, we should at least clarify that.
And it does get really, like, this happens a lot. New businesses come in and go and.
Well, I think of back in the day, the pharmacy used to be three levels and it was all the pharmacy. And then it was the pharmacy on the main level and the loft up top and the soup cellar down below. Talk about a giant change in occupancy, right? From one single, they had the toys down low and then the main and whatever they had, but there was 3 levels of one single business forever. And then overnight it became 3 separate businesses and 3 quite large separate businesses. And so I feel like that sort of occupancy change is a no-brainer, but these other smaller ones, I don't know. I feel like we shouldn't tax people for buying a building in Leavenworth, certainly,
Yeah.
or for making a change that is a positive, an improvement to the aesthetic of downtown, which is something we like, yada, yada, yada. But I don't know. I agree that we should have something in place. I just feel like the barriers or the standards we have should be very well defined and set so that people understand exactly what they can and can't do, so they don't accidentally step into, whatever.
Yeah.
A huge fee or a huge something from the city.
Yeah, I mean, we could keep the 50% thing if we want. I think it just needs to be clarified, like 50% of what?
Exactly. I'm behind that
It's easy when
100%.
it's 50% of the
Of
square
area.
footage.
Right.
But even
But-
then, what if you're changing the area? What if you're doing an
Right.
addition, you're adding a second floor
What
with
if
the
Right
whole
House
second
adds-
floor? the whole second floor is like B occupancy. And the first floor is M, and then you're like, well, we only added 2 parking spaces, but we did increase it by 50%. Like so I don't, yeah, so the area thing is weird, but it could be like,
We have to have some kind of threshold too.
yeah, there could be some threshold.
Yeah, I just
I
feel like you have,
based on the number of spaces, because I feel like everything should be centered on like, what is your parking requirement? And
right, you
changing
establish a
the
parking
parking
requirement for the existing situation. And then
Talk about a change.
if that changes in the positive direction,
Should you do it like based on number of spaces it changes? Like if it increases the demand by more than X number of spaces, then you did.
if it's
Yeah, I
more than
mean-
0,
Or,
I mean,
or
honestly,
with the
like-
50% thing,
At
do we
some
wanna
point-
say, oh, only if it's more than 2? You know, just for like, if somebody changes the occupancy of 1 space in the building and they're like, I wanna change this occupancy, but I would have to add 1 parking space,
Well-
and that's kind of a deal breaker because it was gonna be a really, really minor project. Like a little tiny tenant improvement thing, so maybe you say 2 spaces, it's a minimum or something, I don't know.
Just things to consider. They're all like
yeah,
things we can write out, like, what about this exception? What about this exception? And then narrow it down to. I don't know, it's good to start broad.
I'm not sure I understand all the possibilities of downtown, like, seems like there's a lot of possible changes.
I mean, I'm thinking of like Pav's changed to a store. And I'm trying to remember which has the higher occupancy. And then you get into like, well, is it gross or net?
And they
like, what
also
areas-
renovated their basement, which was not usable space
Right.
in the day, back in
But
the
they
day, and now
added
it's
that whole
fully
basement.
usable space now, so they added a whole new level.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
that, I mean,
from
they
an S to an
probably
M.
added like 6 parking spaces, their requirement for that building. Potentially 4, 6, I don't know. But that was a pretty major project versus if they hadn't done the whole basement and it was more like,
Just,
You know.
redoing or remodeling.
yeah, and they just like
Well, that's what
remodeled one
remodeling
level
is.
and it increased,
Exactly.
Yeah.
you know, it changed the occupancy. Oh, now we need 2 more spaces. Then like that could actually be a huge percentage of the project cost. For a minor like occupancy change, but for a major occupancy change, they can pay for it.
It is hard.
Hmm.
So I mean, I can draft up. Different options.
I don't think too many different options, I just feel like,
Those 2, I
Yeah.
mean, really, it's like.
yeah,
Straight across, it's, if it increases, you pay. Or
It's just so.
give some exemption.
Yeah, what would the
Be like-
exemptions be?
We can't do exemptions for nightly rentals, because they need to have 1 space.
Oh, yeah.
of
I mean,
course.
you
That's
have to
Hotel
have
rooms
your
need
hotel.
parking spaces
Yeah.
for sure, I agree with that.
And that is the one thing in the table, well, it's not, it's a list, of parking that everything else is by area and some of it makes no sense at all because area is not actually a great metric, but, hotels, hotels is 1 stall per sleeping unit.
And we
Well-
did update that recently.
Yeah, and the boarding house thing.
I would say the one thing with area, I mean, the IT parking generation manual has the ability to do it by all sorts of things, like employees or things like that, but area is the one thing that you know when you're reviewing and paying the permit things, whereas you
Yeah.
might not know the number of employees or the number of other, like, all these other things. So it's like, you need to make sure that you're basing it on something that's like objective and known when you're actually paying.
Yeah.
So even
But I
if it's
think-
not perfect.
But I think we might have to do some reverse engineering with like an occupancy, like the IRC occupancy chart, which is area based. And then the district uses and like where do those meet? And kind of use similar metrics so that it comes out about the same as occupancy would. So. Did that make any sense?
Yeah, absolutely. You're
Okay.
saying that
To me-
you're saying you take the hard numbers and then make them mesh with occupancy so we can tie it to an occupancy number at the end. That, I get what you're saying.
So like in the IRC occupancy table, it's like, for a, you know. Business use such as like an office, a dentist's office, or, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
It's one occupant per 200 square feet of,
But I guess
Net area,
we don't need to
you
do
know?
any of that because we don't need to tie it to the IBC at all.
no, but I'm just saying that would be a helpful reference. Unless we.
I mean, I feel like the IT parking generation manual has already baked all that in with tons of data
Yeah.
and unnecessary research projects. Like,
Okay, yeah,
so I don't know that we need to do that work, I guess, it's because all of that's already baked in.
yeah. So is it like, I mean, either one would line up with our district use chart
Yeah,
in some way or. Yeah, but then if you're talking about like, well, it's an occupancy change. Yeah.
And if you tie floor area to occupancy somehow, then
But you
you
can
could
look
tie
at-
people in your head per occupant per business and you could have
But
a
you
good
can-
reference with what you're saying.
you can look at what that difference would be from the parking generation manual
Mhm.
too. I mean, because you can
Because
know
that's
the difference and you
Probably
can say like,
correlates to like an
exactly.
occupancy
yeah.
chart, yeah,
Okay.
okay. Yeah, sorry, I just keep going back to the thing that I know, because I
No,
don't
I
see that
understand.
traffic one, yeah.
I know, and it's like, I'm
Yeah.
But I can say when we have
Hammerdale.
people do the parking studies and they've used that.
the IT trip generation
Yeah.
manual, sixth
It
edition.
has, compared to what we currently have adopted, it is significantly less. than what
Yes.
We have here.
Yes,
So I
and it should
think-
be because it goes from
Yeah.
Florida to like everywhere else in the world.
So I feel
That's
like
like the previous versions.
updating this to align with that more would really reduce, like, because we don't want a bunch of empty parking. That's not the intent of this, it's to provide parking.
Yeah,
And
we don't wanna like overcharge
right,
people, like developers.
No, we
No,
just want parking spaces
Yeah.
or a fee for the parking space that your business really needs that you
Charge for
can't
the parking
provide.
space.
that we
Yeah.
are providing for you or
Thank you.
will be
That
providing.
the city will be providing in the future, all for in perpetuity.
Okay, so if I come back to you with kind of I'll look at the district use chart and kind of morph this into like, here's some of the uses where we could lump them together,
Mhm.
so it aligns better. Because I think we've looked at district use chart more recently in the last few years, so it's been cleaned up
Yeah.
quite a bit, so if we can align.
I
that.
would say the last few years, but I feel like we were working on that when I first started on planning commission. I guess it was 2020, it wasn't that
6
long
years
ago, 5 years ago,
Just 5 short years ago.
few years,
Few years.
So,
seems so long ago now.
When I tell my kids a few minutes, I stretch it out to 15 sometimes.
if there's anything else
Started
in
getting
here.
like,
Yeah, right.
We have some good direction
Son
there.
started calling me out on that.
Yeah.
He's like, Dad, you always say 1 minute and it's never.
Oh, here I just said, this talks about. Because as, like, for your parking area, if you're gonna have to shovel the snow, like, we need something that's like, you need this much snow storage area, like for. Something that an engineer will have to help me with. But I'd like to have something in the code, because right now I just have to ask somebody, show me your snow storage on your site plan. And there's no number, there's no method to it, I don't know if it's adequate or not. But it would be helpful to have a number or a calculation that I can say, this is how much you have to provide.
WashDOT says, consider snow storage needs, it doesn't have any, and the amount of vegetation, then nothing good, but it looks like the city of Minneapolis has a very comprehensive recommendation
Oh.
on snow storage, so they might be.
Okay,
That would make sense. Their snow density is a lot different though, so.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not talking extreme, but as somebody who reviews
Yeah, totally.
permits, it's really hard to say, show me your snow storage and then not know, like for, especially for commercial developments or parking lots, it's like. I don't know if it's adequate or not, and we don't have a lot of areas to store snow here. We will run out of room if we don't have easements to store snow on
But
people's property.
especially for a commercial facility, like if they don't have the snow storage, they have to pay to haul it off and.
They do,
Right,
but it's hard for me to know what adequate is if there's no,
sure, but it's not like in a residential area where
no. You
it's
put it in your
somebody
yard.
else's problem, like. They're gonna
Right.
have to deal with it.
This would be more for like when there is a actual parking lot, I have to
Yeah.
Yep.
say, show your snow storage area.
The
It should-
bird rose next door to me. No storage is a nightmare, and it takes up like half their parking lot, but luckily they never fill their parking lot
Yeah,
because. it's affordable housing and they don't all have cars.
Yeah,
Well, that's like
But
Safeway.
it takes up like 8 parking spaces.
Safeway
Yeah.
parking lot in the wintertime is a
To the.
disaster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They like try
I see
to
it
like store it up
everywhere.
against
What are they
the
trying to do?
wall of the
And then-
highway and it just like.
I mean,
creeps
Austin
out. It
Lakes
just
does a pretty good
becomes
job.
crazy.
It looks like it's about, it can range from like 20 to 33%. That seems somewhat arbitrary, but across
Of the
other,
parking lot area?
of the actual
I
parking.
mean, it makes
yeah,
sense, like I
Parking
totally
lot
believe
paved
that.
area that needs to be, because it can also be true that the cleared area can be different than the total parking lot area. So you can have, you know, smaller parking lots or ones with fewer like other ways to get around in the winter.
That's helpful. I just would let, I put that in here because it has been problematic with some developments where they show this tiny little. And I'm like, that can't be enough for your whole area. And they're like, well, I showed snow storage and I don't really have any
Yeah.
backing. So that was just a thought, I think, there.
Yeah.
I didn't really have any other areas. Those were really the points. And then I got into conditional uses. Because this was something that was brought up. In our last meeting with the council. I went through all our uses that are, only the uses that are conditional in certain zones. I added them here. As you can see, most of them don't have any kind of criteria, so a conditional use is a use that's allowed. It's an allowable use in a zone as long as it meets certain conditions. It's really hard to process a conditional use permit if there aren't specific conditions. Or even like general conditions that are tied to the use. So a lot of jurisdictions will have like their general conditions that apply to all CUPs. And then there are very specific ones that are tied to specific uses that might have a specific impact. I'm trying to think, like, for example, there are a lot of specific uses for a cell tower because of the impacts. Bed and breakfast, we have specific criteria because of the impacts to the neighborhood and how we want to regulate those and still allow them, but regulate them. Daycare centers have some specific criteria, but most of the uses we have in our district use chart don't have any standards for us to go off of. So what I showed you on the, sorry, I'm gonna scroll through this really quick and we can come back, but highlighted those, but the table shows you better. This is our code. And really, this defines what a conditional use permit or a conditional use is. So it's a use which may be appropriate, desirable, convenient, or necessary in the district in which they're allowed, which reason of their, height or bulk or creation of traffic hazards or parking problems or other adverse conditions may be injurious to the public health, safety, welfare, comfort, and convenience unless appropriate conditions are imposed. So those appropriate conditions are very hard as a staff member to figure out what they are if there are no criteria to base that off of. So not that the thing with this too is we don't process a lot of CUPs. Most CUPs that we process are B&Bs, which we have criteria for. This came up because like Adventure Park was a conditional use permit. There's no criteria for it. We changed that, so now that use is not permitted anymore in any of our zones. But if we look at the use chart and look at some things that might have a significant impact somewhere, we should really consider what conditions we want for those specific uses. Or if we don't want specific criteria, something at least general to base our decision off of. Right now, I'm basing decisions off of this additional requirements and conditions that I have up on the screen. I'm sorry, the people will be hard to read. So I look at the size of the lot and would it need to be increased in size to accommodate the use? Should I limit the coverage or the height of the buildings because of view or light? So these are things that are additional conditions that the hearing examiner can impose, but they're not really review criteria, but I'm using them in that capacity. These are the only thing I have to base a decision on. I'm sorry if I'm talking in nonsense or if this doesn't make sense, but if you kind of go back We used to have criteria for like microbrewery because the impact they have on our sewer system. If they dump a bad batch, it can really impact our system. But we don't have any criteria anymore. So I'm thinking there are uses like that it would be beneficial so that, and it's helpful to the person applying for the use too, so they know what they need to meet, what the criteria is.
When
The daycare center conditions are kind of weird.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm
if
like,
Some of them are
when-
pretty weird.
I'm
Where
wondering
did they come up with it?
I'm wondering if they were based on state law at the time.
Oh,
Because of the,
Yeah.
because most daycare centers are regulated through the state. And if we
Yeah.
just accepted those and said you have to meet these, with like the play areas,
40 feet of frontage on a public street. Like, why does that matter?
Yeah.
Why is that a
Well, that's why I
criteria?
wanna look at the criteria too that we have and go, why?
Yeah.
Is that,
Yeah.
I don't know why that would be a requirement, but
Always some.
bed and breakfast we dug into last year or the year before, I
Mhm.
don't think we need to touch that. But a lot of these, like, some of them you might look at and go, why do we even need a conditional, what would be the
Yeah.
conditions on this? Why do we need a
Exactly.
CUP? And so that's the direction I'm looking for, is if this were to be plopped down in any of these zones where it's allowed, the conditional use. I didn't put down where it's allowed in a permitted, or where it's permitted outright, because we're not looking at that. So some of these are permitted outright and don't require conditional use in certain areas. That's why I included the district use chart, so you can see where they're permitted as well, but this chart narrows down exactly what zones require conditional use permit, do they have criteria? And, any little comments, I didn't have a ton of comments because there's really nothing to go off of. But like educational centers, educational facilities, that's like our schools, they all, in every jurisdiction, they require conditional use permit. What kind of conditions do we, what are the impacts that a school would have, and what do we want to mitigate for?
Yeah.
Through our code. So this takes a lot of thought. A lot. This is not a quick process. But it got placed priority wise above R3 zoning. So I did it here.
One question I have, in the public facility, high impact and low impact, where are the standards for high impact and low impact written out so I can read what's the difference?
Same
So
for commercial amusement.
I have the definition. I don't have, there's
But
no
it's in the-
criteria.
It's in the definitions table, what high impact and low impact
Yeah,
means.
the table I have that I put together for you on page, what is this of your packet?
Oh, public facility, low impact means land or structures owned by or operated for the benefit of the public use and necessity, including but not limited to government or public buildings such as city hall, law enforcement, post office, library, museum. High impact is including but not limited to fire station and public works facilities.
So we here are a low impact, our public works facility is a high impact.
Okay,
Right, and then commercial amusement, low impact is bowling alley, dance hall, skating rink, tennis club, private swimming club, or similar athletic club, batting cages, BMX courses, paintball, and golf driving ranges. Interesting.
I didn't put high
is
impact
low
in here
or-
because not allowed anymore. Sorry.
Okay, oh
Okay.
yeah, that stuff's not allowed anymore, but wait, no, those are all low impact,
Those are all low impact,
which
The
are
ones that you just,
are allowed.
allowed.
We can't do high impact with like coasters. That was specifically called out. That's not allowed anymore.
But it's not, but low impact is not necessarily defined. Wait, is high
High
impact
impact is
defined?
defined, I
for
can put it in here because
comparison?
it's not permitted anymore, but I can look it
Okay.
up and tell you what a high.
But I guess
impact
if
that's
we have
okay.
it defined in the code, that's
Yeah.
okay, but then there is something to compare to.
Yes,
So you can't just be like, of course, this is low impact.
so if it's high impact is just, and it meets that definition, then it's not allowed.
So you just have to pick what it's most similar
And
to.
coaster is in there, that definition,
not allowed.
now.
Ever.
High impact.
Like copy printing establishment. It's like allowed outright in all the commercial zones, but then it requires a CUP in this in this. CDMU is the commercial
Commercial
downtown
downtown.
mixed use
Yep.
overlay district.
It requires,
I'm like, why?
Like a print shop
A print
requires a
shop, which is
CUP.
kind of obsolete now. I mean, we still have them, but
We don't anymore.
Like-
Ours went away.
Dust
but
Coffee Shop's not there?
No, it's still there.
It is still,
Yeah.
she was gonna sell it.
No,
That'd be fine.
it closed like
It's gone.
2 weeks ago. It's
It's
gone.
gone.
It is
fine.
fine.
Weeks ago.
Yeah, it's
Oh, that's
fine.
fresh.
Yeah.
I've been there a long time, sorry. You're right, it's obsolete, my bad.
Last few months.
different things, I mean, people need different things, but it's not as big of a need as it
Yeah.
once
I
was.
feel like this is legacy from back when they used to do prints and it was highly flammable.
Yeah,
Nowadays
Yeah,
it's
like
digital.
Actual blueprints with
Oh,
chemicals, yeah,
Yeah.
and not just like
and
Yeah.
Yeah.
printers.
And the CDMUI is only allowed in commercial districts and it's allowed in commercial, but it required a CUP in this, so I was just like, some of these we just need to,
Scratch.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, coffee roasting was also weird.
Which one?
Coffee roasting.
Coffee roasting
Well-
has specific ecology criteria.
Yeah.
Our DOE has very,
That'd kind of be like breweries.
Yeah.
and you put them together because they both need.
well,
Basically.
ecology has specific standards for air quality.
It's like if you have a sriracha factory. Big air quality problem. It's a real, they're like trying to shut one down in California because of the air quality.
For condition, for uses that are regulated by the state requirements, like Department of Ecology, do we have to have conditional uses in our table, or do we just say
Comply
Refer
with
to
we
the
have to
regulations.
comply with the state?
Yeah, I mean, I think we could. I don't know if, I mean, because a lot of these wouldn't trigger CFA, so we wouldn't send it through any kind of state review. We wouldn't know if there's state requirements. So I think it's more of a stopgap, so we make sure any of those issues are addressed before we issue a permit.
Got it.
But
I see what you mean. So it's so that like you guys don't like, yeah, I
never
understand.
stamp something and then. it
But
gets
that means
approved
that we
and
need
it's
to
in
revisit
violation.
these anytime a state.
Yeah, I mean, and technically, everything in the code says they have to comply with state. and
Sure, they
federal
have
law.
to, but like if
Um,
this is
I
the
just know-
process step for you guys to be to.
I know that coffee roasting was a big deal at one point with like specific standards for air quality. I don't know what those are, but it could be that that's not necessary anymore because if you have a coffee roasting business, you have the special type of whatever, and it's not a problem anymore.
Like somebody else is regulating it.
Yeah, if it's not,
mean, I think
if it's not
I think
regulated
it's
by the city,
health
why do we
and-
care?
Yeah,
Right.
Oh, yeah, the county,
But if it's like.
health department
ecology,
would be.
or state health,
Policy or
whatever,
Right.
fire gets involved. But we review it
Yeah,
for building
right, they're not-
fire code
Exactly.
compliance, so. Yeah, I don't know that it needs it. That's why like, it's good to look at these and find out the why. Why are we doing it this way? And just because we've done it that way forever doesn't mean we have to, like, is there a reason?
Stuff.
But this is conditional and not just allowed in commercial zones.
Yeah. So,
I understand conditional use is a little bit more in residential zones where they have an impact to residences if there's something that's not a residential use.
Right.
Like daycare centers, like B and Bs, things like that. But some of these these uses that are allowed in, that are conditional in industrial and commercial zones. Where, what kind of mitigation or what extra conditions would we need on them other than what's required by code? That's where we need to kind of look at each of these. So even if you want to go through my table I made here, and just like highlight the ones where you're like, let's look at these, I don't know, narrow it down to ones that we want to dive into, ones that we need to remove.
this,
That would be helpful to me.
this feels, I mean, there's lots of opportunity for rabbit holes on this.
Oh, yeah.
It feels like it could be a bit of a time suck, so what I'd like to do is kind of take a chunk every meeting and
That'd be cool.
go through a few of them. Not starting tonight, I'd like to
I know, I'm sorry.
to the next one. But I think that, yeah, we'll just carve out time over the next 4-6 months and just kind of do 2 or 3 at a time.
Yeah, it's a big task. It seems like something small. It is a lot bigger task than I think anyone would think. And then I don't have anything, so triplexes, I wanted to have more of just a discussion tonight. Because based on our meeting with the council, They are not opposed to triplexes, but would like us to have some clear design standards. I. Again, this was kind of like wanting to have a discussion with you all. And what I wanted from them, and I'm not sure I got it, is like, what is the neighborhood feel? What are we trying to accomplish by having these design standards? I tried to pull random, I didn't have a ton of time. I looked at Wenatchee's code because they have standards for like up to 4 units on one lot. These are the standards that apply. So it applies to single family, duplex, ADUs, everything. If you have 4 or fewer units on a lot. And they were pretty, they weren't overly complicated. The one I didn't really totally align with because of our small lot, narrow lot sizes was the garage width. Couldn't be more than 50% of the width of the structure. And I look at some of our houses that need a garage and it's almost the entire 30-foot width of the lot. I don't know that that would apply well here. But I like some of their architectural features where like you need to have, like a cover over, or they called it like protection, weather protection over your entry up to 3 feet or something. Something so you don't just have a box, but you have some kind of weather protection, be it just a eave overhang or a covered porch. Some of these jurisdictions will have like a glazing requirement. So if you have a blank wall, you can't have a blank wall. You have to have 30% glazing on a wall that faces the street. With second 2-story homes, some of them require modulation or articulation. I guess what I heard from the council was they just don't want a box, I guess. But I feel like Leavenworth is very eccentric. It doesn't have really like, you can't walk down a street and see every house looking similar. They're all very different and were built at different times and are different sizes. And it's very hard to get a neighborhood feel here.
The only real one that exists that I can think of is like the Mine Street, Tumwater, like all built by Ken Hirsch or a lot built by Ken Hirsch and very similar. And that's the most homogeneous neighborhood that may exist here. And even though they are all boxes of some sort, they have enough aesthetic design appeal that each house doesn't appear to be a cookie cutter from, even though they are similar, or if not the same, just reversed or however he does it. So I understand where the council comes from there. I struggle with the idea that, that seems like a design review board thing. If they want the design review board to make the designs of residential homes a little bit more something and a little bit less something. Is that wrong?
Well,
Looking
design
at it like
review
that?
board is very specific to like old world variant.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like very specific to the scene.
Which is
Todd Moore's
commercial,
layer
which
house
wouldn't
and-
apply to
Wouldn't
this.
apply to residential at all.
Well,
Boy, that's
I mean,
tough.
And I want it to be something that's very easy for staff to do, to be like, check the box. Yes, they meet this, like,
So we did review the manufactured home standards and we looked at the residential dwelling standard at that time. The first one, if the main entry door of the dwelling does not face the street from which the front yard setback is derived, a minimum of 30 square feet of glazing shall be on the portion of the dwelling facing the street on which the front yard setback is located.
That's not a lot.
it's really not much.
30 square feet is like,
It's like a window, maybe 2.
I mean,
So-
each of those is
I
like
could show you
6.
An example.
Square feet.
3.
No, that's
That's
really.
20, 30 inches, 30 by 30.
I have actually done that calculation on some where I was like, there's no way that's meeting it on a corner lot. Where the front door didn't face, and I was like,
Mhm.
they're not meeting that, and then when I calculated all
30
out,
square
I'm
feet
like,
is
no,
no.
they do.
Before we go down the road of solving any one potential solution, I'd like to make sure we're all aligned on what our objective is here. And then we can work from there. I don't think that we're ever gonna be able to just say, this is a typical house and let's go try and mirror that. That's a fool's errand.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, what I would like to get done here is I do not want to add barriers to triplexes. So what is the most cost-effective things that we can do that minimizes the impact on build cost, but still holds true a few of these architectural or design features that do make it feel more like a single family house.
What if you said that you couldn't have, I mean, obviously this is going into a little bit of ridiculousness here, but like, you can't have one single wall for the front aesthetic, because it feels like a front aesthetic. No one really cares what the back or the sides are gonna look like, unless it's a corner house.
Well,
So for the
yeah,
front aesthetic,
modulation.
there has to be some sort of modulation in the front aesthetic, whether that's a garage that sticks out or you break the wall in half with a 3-foot jog of some sort, but just something that breaks the idea of like they said, a box or a rectangle, as simple as possible, just an architectural break in the front from the, I mean, I
Like
know
if
that
it's
sounds.
more than a certain area,
But I mean, Allison, in reality, what's the cheapest thing to build?
a box.
Exactly, for sure, and especially if you're gonna build a triplex, you
But
wanna
then-
maximize
But
area.
then like you build a box and you put a front porch on it and that's a nice box.
Yeah.
exactly.
And if that front porch has a
There's
prow, a
different
covered
ways
prow,
to-
that's your aesthetic modulation, and you've met the.
So
met the bill.
It would have to be like a certain dimension.
Yeah.
Probably like
Yeah.
it has to extend out. this
Or a
far,
ratio for the
or a
building.
Percentage.
Yep, exactly.
I'm just wondering, I referenced the residential dwelling standards that we have. Because I'm like,
Well, they were just talking about.
can we
meeting-
just use the same thing, or like, how much more do we really need?
We have the same.
I kinda wanna-
Houses.
Yeah.
You talked about the stereotyping house.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And
yeah,
I'm running into
As we
some
went through.
barriers with tiny houses and trying to work that through building
Mm.
and stuff, so that's why I haven't brought those design standard changes to the council yet, because I might have to bring it back to you. But, looking at this, we might need to open it up anyway to like add a little bit, but like, I know our code right now says you have to have at least a 2-foot eave, and that was because manufactured homes, they were trying to make them look a certain way. And I know,
Trying to make them
and
not exist.
now we've kind of gone away from requiring, we do have houses that don't have eaves in town, because that's kind of a more modern style in some
but
ways.
there's lots of historic homes with no eaves.
Yes, so we.
Very good.
Originally,
Didn't exist.
when I first started, I was reviewing every residence to all those residential design standards, and I would get some that these have no eaves, like, show me an example, like,
Mhm.
it just got.
And then we would just send you a picture of like, well, this is a style
This is the
that
style.
I'm going for, and it has no eaves, and it's a common style, don't worry about
I'm
it.
building a salt box, don't sweat it.
Yeah. it's-
So I need it to be a few
Yeah.
things like, and that's why when I was looking at some of Wenatchee's, I'm not saying there's nothing that's 100% something I would be like, this is perfect. But like they talked about facades visible from the street, need an entry, like just, or a covered entrance, like easy things.
Yeah. So I mean,
All new dwellings will provide a covered pedestrian entry, weather protection.
So going back to your expertise, Allison, what would be the most cost-effective value add here? Is it paired roof lines? Is it articulated facade? Is it?
I like the covered entry thing, saying, because that does have this very like practical
Use.
purpose, and
Yeah.
saying like it's weather protection for the front door. But it also forces a certain amount of like modulation or character or change on the front of the house. So I feel like that is a very simple, easy thing to
Are we-
do, and there's precedent for it from other jurisdictions.
I would ask, are we forcing, because the only reason I asked this is because the example that the city council used was the triplexes on West Whitman Street, I believe, that are 3 garages with all of the entries on the side, 3 garages from the
Yeah.
street, which just create
Nothing. a
what
wall.
somebody said was just a wall. And with what we're talking about here and covered entries, this
They
wall
need
of
that.
garages building fits all of these things right now, except for the design aesthetic from the street of some sort.
I would keep this in here, like as from the residential dwelling standards, if the main entry door of the dwelling does not face the street, a minimum 30 square feet of glazing shall face the street. I think we should keep that in there.
Okay,
And possibly even I mean, it's a little bit like us saying like. Parking off of the alley is preferred. It's like, it's a preference. We can't do anything about it. If they're like, we have a good reason to not do that. So we could kind of say like, it is preferred or whatever, that the main entry door of the dwelling faces the street. If that is not possible, then a minimum 30 square feet of glazing shall be on the portion facing the street. Like, I think that this, going through these residential dwelling standards, adding something like this says entry porches or landings shall be constructed as an integral part of the dwelling architecture, and I'd instead add something about weather protection at the front entry. You know, and then we can kind of review this, and honestly, I'm like, yeah, this could be, with some edits, it could be used for any dwelling, single family or otherwise. Right now it is applied to single family homes, modular homes, manufactured homes, other related types of construction.
It's interesting because we don't have anything in our code for multifamily. We don't have design standards for multifamily, but
Right.
they're very concerned about triplexes. But right now, if somebody builds
There's
anything in
no
multifamily
standards.
with no standards.
So I mean, I'm like, should we just say this also applies to multifamily homes? And then dial that in for what we want and say like, it's all
Or
the
do we
same.
want to allow maximization in the multifamily zone to build, I don't want to use this term ugly, but to build as
Efficient.
efficient and aesthetically non-pleasing as possible to maximize the space on the property, to maximize the utilization of the size inside for tenant occupancy. Feels like I don't want to just broad brush this into into the multifamily. If we want the multifamily zone to kind of be a multifamily zone, and maybe it won't look great, but a single family for sure, but multifamily being, let's maximize everything in multifamily. That's just,
This is based on use, not zone.
okay, that's fair.
Single family
Yeah,
homes,
okay.
modular homes.
Yeah.
So if we're saying, oh, well, triplexes are in the single family
I
zone.
totally hear what you're saying. I was just thinking the multifamily zone's already zoned that way, so it's easy to say, well, that's the zoning of there, but everywhere else is zoned.
Yeah.
So the triplexes that we want, if there are someone who's going to build a triplex in what is now single family, that we would like that to be more aesthetically pleasing because it's outside of the multifamily. It's not a normal use of property in the single family yet.
I mean, I think the goal would be to come up with code that does not create a lot of additional cost or barrier,
Yeah,
but that makes everyone more happy with the development that occurs. So
so all development, just make it all development, so you don't have,
any dwelling,
yeah,
residential
okay,
dwelling.
that makes sense. to me.
But,
I have no problem with that.
I like this one, multiple entrances, separate units should be visually distinct. I mean, that could be as simple as different color
Yeah.
paint, right? In different trim.
Yeah, that's the,
In
well,
multifamily,
like Snoqualmie actually has some pretty clear guidelines on that. That it basically is like, you have to be able to distinguish the different individual units.
Yeah.
Except where it's desirable for it to appear as one home.
I was gonna say there will
Because
be
there's
cases when
places-
there's like a duplex where it's one above the other and you want it to just look like one house.
Yeah, so you're matching the character,
And then-
except where it's desirable for it to look as one home
Uh-huh.
architecturally. And then it says, that you can do that and through vertical modulation of the front facade by stepping out at least or back 5 feet, change of materials. So you can just like change the orientation or change the color.
I was thinking about that from a design aspect. You can have one
Recessed
wall
or
and-
projected balconies or porches.
So,
Or a break in the roof line such as a gable, like all of those are fine examples, the easiest one of which would be like, change the
Yeah.
material, make it a different color.
I mean, the staff.
And it has the appropriate exception, so
The back
anyways, I think
change.
that is really good, and the other thing that they had.
But it's one color, right? Like.
I think it's one color, but they do have,
Textured.
we required them to modulate that.
yeah,
To offset.
yeah, and it does
They
look good. I
also-
mean,
Even though it wasn't required by code, they did it because we were like,
Please.
that will help a little bit. So they changed their entire, and it was hard with the firewall and everything there, like, they did make an effort.
Yeah.
The other
Even
thing,
though it's not required by code.
the other thing that Snoqualmie has that I think would address the wall of garage thing is that they require each each unit to have a ground level entrance or a stoop of some kind, so that there's like a way to access for the major fronting street, or if it's a corner lot, it could be on either of the corner lots, street on the corner, so that you have, to promote like neighborliness, and also that you're not allowed to have a blank wall on any side, and that you have to have windows on the ground floor and for each story that is occupied by people, I guess. So not the attic. So those seem like pretty easy to enforce and interpret ones. Maggie, I can send you the
Yeah, I like
link to
that.
this no follow me.
That's great.
Yeah, those sound pretty good.
I think a combination of things, it's just we want it to, again, we're looking at barriers, but for me, it would be easy. I don't know if we want a code for multifamily, and if we require modulation, things like that, we leave it alone. Or
It
if we
gets
say-
really hard when you have like the up and side. You don't want each of those units to be distinguished, right? Like,
Right.
those are gonna
So,
be,
that's what I'm saying. 'cause
that's
we
gonna
have
look
codes
really like a
this applies
checkerboard on your
for-
face.
kind of like what they did, when actually in some other jurisdictions is for 1 to 4 units, this applies. 4 or more is typically multifamily, this applies.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just different.
that could be nice to say by number of units, 1 to 4 units, because so much of our multifamily zone is developed with like duplexes and triplexes.
Mhm.
So that's why I'm like, I don't like the idea of tying it to the zone as much as the use.
It's like the number of units on a lot. If you have 1 to 4 units on a lot, these standards
Yeah.
apply. If you have 5 or more. these
No matter the zoning,
that.
no matter the zoning code, just how many units, period.
Yeah.
I like that.
That's great.
That's a
Yep.
level playing field for
Yeah.
everyone.
So then ADU, I mean, everything is, it means if you build a single family, it means this. If you build a house in an ADU, it means this, up to 4 units.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what they are.
So the house with the ADU, I have two things. One is, are we allowed to regulate any of that because of the,
We are, as long as it's not more restricted than this primary dwelling. So it wouldn't be additional, it's just the same standards, that you can only require the same standards that you apply to a single family. to an ADU.
so I guess
You can't
I guess
say-
in that case, it might fall under that, would be beneficial to be seen, if you have like a garage apartment above garage apartment, you wouldn't necessarily want to distinguish that as a separate.
You could say when
You
they're.
wouldn't want to like add a different material to that, right?
You
So
could say
like,
if it's a side, like townhome style, if it's a side by, like, you could.
Well, there's a caveat in there unless.
unless it's beneficial, yeah, it would have to
So if
follow
you're like,
underneath
oh,
that,
no, this
unless
is-
it's beneficial to
So-
look like one cohesive
So I'd
building.
say most attached ADUs, it would be beneficial for it to appear. like
And, but then the other, then I guess there's the question of like, do we want to make ADUs have, I'm just thinking through the different things in the Snoqualmie list. It said like, frontage onto the main street or an entrance onto the main street. I don't know that all of them, definitely all of the current ones don't have that. Do we want to make that a requirement? 'Cause that seems like it would
Oh, for
actually be
ADUs?
restrictive. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, not
I
for
just
ADUs.
think a front, weather protection was more important, to make it have a
Yeah,
covered front.
yeah.
I don't think frontage on, because I think a lot of them front off the alley, and they access off the
Yeah.
alley.
Well, I know, I'm just saying that like, if we're gonna
And
be
even if
applying
you're doing a
this to one to.
triplex, like one of the units on the triplex might actually be accessed from the back or
Yeah.
something, like from the alley. So I don't, we kind of went back and forth on that, like when we talked about this ages ago, like I feel like Steven was here and we were talking about this and he pointed out, like, there's gonna be times when they're like, one of the units is accessed off the alley, like I don't want to put all the front doors on the front. It's
And I
better
don't think
that way.
that's necessary, I just think
Um,
having the point
weather
of access
protection.
clearly defined and having weather protection is a very simple way to do that. I like a lot of what Snoqualmie has. and
Yeah, I'm
tailor
just trying to think
tailor
of
it to
how do
your-
we prevent the entrances all be like that, the wall of,
I think there was something else in there about the glazing, that you have to have windows on every side. And what we already have, or it's like, if the front door does not face the street, the front setback side, then you have to have glazing
Window.
on that side.
Okay,
You have to have windows on that side.
okay, got it.
So I feel like we can work with that concept without actually having a strict doors must all be on the front setback.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, that, we could even just be like, a front door has to be on the front setback. If there are multiple units, the other ones can face the other directions.
Or windows, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think the biggest concern is just that the front facade is what most people see. That is the
Yeah.
main focus of most of this. What's visible from the street.
Yes, I would also say, that you're talking about allowing as much room to allow them to build what they can build in that area. And that is the neighborhood feel. As you look at our older homes, they're all, the way they're built, and the reason they're all non-conforming is just because they're built because it was the way they could make them work in that space at that time.
Mhm.
And so I would go to council and say, that is what our neighborhood feel is that person comes in, designs their home a certain way to make it use of that space, and then it just becomes part of that neighborhood. So I think what you guys say, if you want to put one and then put your entries any other way, by any other way, that's what we do. We make it work here. And as long as it's within, and it doesn't look like a box, great. That's what that won't look like a box.
What did you guys think about, this is just, I'm throwing these out here because they're in other codes, the requirement for, open space. I just got a lot of feedback through visioning that we don't have enough green space. I'm just throwing it out there as.
Then we can have more.
It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be green.
Thank you,
It doesn't have to be
Drew. I was
green.
just gonna say the exact
surrounding
thing.
all of us, is that not green?
I was like, not enough green space, huh?
The hills are alive.
We're getting our park survey feedback and they're saying we need more trails, we need more green space.
Yeah,
I
like,
don't think that includes a yard,
Right.
somebody's
Yeah,
private
yeah,
yard.
that's
Like,
the thing, is,
nobody
like,
wants that. Let's
nobody-
combine it all together and like.
I hear a
like
lot about-
a yard on private property does not contribute to
Exactly.
It's not great space.
public green space.
The most it contributes
I'm
is snow
surrounded by
storage.
a lot of
Like
very
that's,
large yards.
its main
and
function.
there's Very little value in any of it.
yeah.
And
I
I'm
have a
not
large
talking-
yard and
and
there's
here-
zero value.
I guess I'm not talking.
It's just
green
work.
space.
Just
Just work.
There was concern
Like,
with
hope
lots
it
of-
doesn't catch on
We've been
fire.
hammered by that for a while, though.
Yeah,
That's,
I'm just-
the public has come to us a lot and said like, the yards are green space and they want yards, and that's a single family dwelling,
So-
roadblock that we've encountered for years.
It's a talking point, a tactic for.
Yeah.
NIMBY.
NIMBYs, I mean, that's not a,
Constructionist. They're welcome to have as big a yard as they want to buy.
exactly. If
So
they want a
here-
yard, then buy one.
So
We
here what
don't
I
need to
liked is,
require them.
this one it didn't have to be a green yard, it was just open space, like an area for.
I mean, I do
For
think that.
human activity.
I do think that a lot of people feel like big yards is part of the character of Leavenworth, despite the fact that the oldest neighborhoods, I mean,
Just yards.
if they have a big yard, it's because they have a teeny tiny house.
Yeah. They're on
Um,
3,500 square foot lots.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that the character of Leavenworth is to have a pretty high yard to house ratio. And that is changing as there's more and more infill development and people are building bigger houses on smaller lots. There's less of that, and that is a change in the character. However, I don't think it's reasonable or in the best interest of the city. Basically, that would mean reducing our lot
Housing.
coverage requirement, and we've been talking about increasing our lot coverage requirement.
It's basically like yard versus housing, like, and I think we need to pick housing.
Well, I don't think like percentages here, I mean, they're saying, like here, new dwelling units shall provide open spaces usable for human activity at 100 square feet per dwelling.
That's not usable.
That's tiny.
What are you gonna do there? I guess you could do yoga. Like,
But I'm
Like a
saying,
bathroom.
it's kind of this incident, I guess if we had multiple units, it would. Could be more, if you have 10 units, it's 1,000 square feet of open space.
But I think.
yeah, but for 3 units.
Our default
Over
position
300 square feet.
is we will always have green space in accordance with WUI standards.
I'm just throwing it out there because we have
That's the WUI
so many
standards, and
comments
that's the
about
green
this
space we
over
have.
the years. So if we're going to look at adding more density and adding things that people are gonna have a problem with. What could we throw out there that? It's just gonna, it's gonna be something that comes up.
Yeah.
I'm
I,
not saying green space.
Yeah.
Because we have water conservation, we don't want.
Yeah.
You have to use all your water you want.
That's what you throw out, it's what the standard is. That it goes against everything that it's, and like Drew said, there are people that talk about green space, but they're talking about parks and everything, and we're doing that. But when you actually listen to them, watch it back, the ones that talk about yards and everything are people that they don't want to have houses, they do. There, and I understand that, and that's fine, and that's when you say, okay, but we're just staying within what we standards here. But it's not the vast majority of people that are talking about green space, that's the park
Yes.
thing, that's a different thing. But
agree.
that, it's not. If you're gonna, no. That's not what they're saying. I mean, it is what they're saying, but you don't have to, and I get it from your point of view, but like Drew said, say here and actually be able to say, don't say what the movie, just say what the movie standards are. That's what I'm asking. If I can say, here's what it says in the code, this is what they're going by. They're not gonna argue, and okay, bring something else to me, and that's WUI code, that goes with the WUI code, and we'll look at that. That'll shut them. And you're gonna have to address them one by one, because there's not enough, that they keep on coming to. Yeah. Because I think you guys are doing the right exact thing that you're supposed to do.
Well, I think when you look at lot coverage, we're already meeting some of that open space requirement, and I misread that, it was 100 square feet for every 1,000 square feet of lot area. So if you had a 5,000 square foot lot, you have 500 square feet of open space.
but then it's like, does your side setback count as open space?
That's, I mean, when I, yeah, well, that's what I'm saying, I think we're already meeting that, if that were the case.
Yes.
Like, here's an example, like a diagram from one of the codes. So you can see, like, I don't think the front yard setback counts, but like. That's the side and rear, I mean, part of that's an alley, I mean. So I think we're already meeting that just with our lot coverage standards, we don't have
Yeah.
very high lot coverage.
Yeah.
So when people argue about, we need more green space, we need more open space, a lot of it is open space, and it is up to people to decide what they want to do with that space.
Yeah.
If they xeriscape it, they xeriscape it, if they have a yard, they have a yard, but like, I have a black thumb, I don't want to plant a lot of plants because they will die, and that's gonna be uglier. Than forcing me to plant trees and shrubs, they're gonna die.
My whole front yard is native plants. I'm just
See, that's
trying to
great.
make it look like.
Oh, my front yard's green and I pay for it every month, so.
I have a rock perimeter. So I'm very wooey to find it.
In the spring.
But I mean,
it's
but
just
if
weird,
you're-
it's awesome, and it's all crispy.
Yeah.
We don't wanna get, I get the sense of like, we're not in the mindset of wanting to overregulate anything, but we're trying to meet somewhere in the middle, have some middle ground that, yes, we need this development. Here's how we can make it work with some minimal standards that aren't gonna be a high cost and a burden.
Correct.
We're trying to reduce, our goal with the comp plan is to reduce barriers for housing, not to increase them.
And I think that's the thing, is when people are like, well, the character of Leavenworth is like. A lower lot coverage standard, essentially, like. Less, more. Open space on a lot, it's like that. Is. A historic coincidence, not a historic rule. And it is not in line with our comp plan goals.
And if we really
It's
want
just
this
not
as a community, we have to
feasible anymore.
understand that there has to be some sort of concession made in what we feel the aesthetic of a neighborhood is and what the needs of said neighborhood really are.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, like this aesthetic that some people are attached to is not compatible with our needs.
Yeah,
And if we're trying to do this to, figure out the best way forward for Leavenworth, there's gonna have to be concessions made by all parties to make some idea work, whatever that idea may be.
So for next time, can we maybe just take the outline from Snowfall Make and
Yep.
we'll just go through and redline what we think is excessive, but less is more in
Yeah.
in the approach?
And any of the wording from that Wenatchee code that seemed,
I like the word the 1 to 4 units is kind of what I,
Yeah, I think so.
focus.
yeah, and how they phrase the like weather
weather protection.
protection thing.
Yeah, but then I like a lot of the stuff on where it's just
Just-
material color and articulation.
I might not have it perfect, guys, but I'll throw some stuff in
Yeah,
a
that's
hodgepodge
okay.
and we can
Great.
even red line,
Easier
like,
to respond to a draft.
and well, it can even be a work in progress, like we can literally pull up the Word document and work on it.
Yeah.
Um, because I like your guys' input, like I could draft something, but it's not gonna come into you.
Just
And
throw all
That's
the-
what you're here for. So.
Just throw all the bullet points down and then we'll just go through the red line and
Okay,
then say,
cool.
let's add language here, or let's red line that.
So you're okay with focusing on triplexes next week? I don't think I think the parking, once I get the numbers from Selby on like what the cost breakdown would be, that would be more in the rate fee schedule, but if we kind of have an idea of where we're wanting to go with that code, so that should be pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
It's breaking down all those uses. I think triplexes is gonna be the easiest thing to accomplish.
Yeah, we told the council this is a low priority, however, this is low hanging fruit, so we're gonna go after it. And then parking obviously would be our next, if we can get anything back, then it's gonna take some time.
Yeah.
We might just have to at that point to look at R3, because it might be the next logical thing, even though it's not a big priority.
Sounds good. I have direction. Thank you all. Is there anything else you want to discuss? The Housing Advisory Committee at some point would like to meet with you guys, and I could invite them to
Okay.
attend a meeting here or. Just because some things overlap, you guys help write the code and direct us for comp plan and development standards, and they're just trying to find projects and how can they help with housing, so.
I'd love to hear what they're up to. Mhm.
Maybe when I talk to them this month, we try to set up a time when they can come in. Trying to think of what else I wanted to cover.
Yeah, I mean, if they could come to September, maybe that'd be awesome. It's doable.
Yeah, I will be joining via Zoom because I'm at a planning directors conference that the whole first week up in Chelan. And so I don't know if I'll make it back for the meeting in time. So Amy and Celeste will be here. I will be Zoom. So we'll all be here, but I just won't be here first.
Perfect. I'm good for the agenda. Any other comments, discussions, or feedback from commission? Anything from the public? I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I think the public's asleep.
No, he's looking at his phone.
I'm looking at my calendar.
So moved. Move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn. All in favor?
I think
Aye.
Second,
Seconded by
and in
Allison.
favor.
And in favor by Allison, unanimous. Thank you.
Got it. All right.
hey, James, don't go.
You know what?
Oh, James
We
has
never
to speak
recorded.
with somebody.
Did we?
Mhm.
I thought you
Yeah,
said
we're
starting
recording.
recording.
We are?
We're recording right now,
Oh my gosh.
but not
Oh.
anymore.
I was